I used to think it is dangerous when a person is not aware, but worry about the person that is aware but chooses to avoid it. Because if they have the awareness but don't choose to change, then they're actually making a conscious decision.
Exactly.
Dr. Jena, thank you so much for being here. We have Dr. Jena and our lovely guest, Zoe. Zoe is the star. Thank you so much for being here. And I want to say thank you so much for your time and your effort and everything. And I wanted to bring you specifically on here because of your experience in longevity and health performance. And can you tell me what were the first steps of action you took besides before medical school?
So first of all, thank you for having us both. And I appreciate you guys letting me bring her because she is my life. And she's the best.
She is.
I not only studied one avenue, I always try to find ways to educate myself in different fields and then link them. So I never looked at the human body as something that was separate. So I wanted to study things that were related to the human mind and the body and just, big pharma type medical system, but also yes. I did massage school before grad school and not for anything. I never wanted to do massage, but I wanted to have the hands-on feel. And I remember my teacher saying to me, like, you can feel more with your hand or more with your elbow than I can with my hands. He's like, the sensation and the awareness you've gotten because you can grow your sensation and just the accuracy and efficiency with the nerves to be able to feel. And you can grow that section in your brain so it's more active and more efficient, just like artists. It's pretty crazy.
Really?
So I studied that and I'm like, well, I'm going to do that. So I do things ambidextrously and I'm, again, mastering different things about the human and then trying to correlate it and bring it all back. So massage school was I tried to find like the hippiest school with people that truly cared about other people, and that was a very eye-opening experience because we did some healing work and energy work and praying over people and giving people love. And that's where I'm like, wow, this really does work. And I remember I was working with energy for the first time and, everyone was kind of going crazy. We would work on people and people would have reactions like they're releasing. And some guy was like, I'm a little girl. And I was like, I don't know what
really?
But I'm like, I don't know what that is. Because I'm very scientific minded.
Yeah.
And so then I was working on this girl and we weren't even touching the people. We were just hovering our hands.
Yeah. And
I felt sadness over my whole body to where I shed a tear. And I'm like, did something sad happen to you recently? And she's like, my mom died last week. And I was like, oh my gosh, so like maybe there's something to this, maybe, so that's where I was like, energy is real.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I was like, wow, that's pretty scientific to me. Like, how did my body have that reaction just by being in her energy field? We were doing cranial sacral where you don't touch the person.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting. And then from then on, I'm very big with studying research. So the database of research, I pay for that. So I would just go read all these articles nonstop. Like I have a library and all the things that were sold on TV, I just see it and I go and research the stuff. I'm like, that's a lie, that's a lie. So I really see the system for what it is. And it's a corporation. So
yes.
Remembering that is important to make sure that you go back to the earth and food and how the human was supposed to be raised.
Yes.
Because that's where longevity is and that's where health is and that's where your inner energy can actually come out.
That's amazing. Well, it's pretty interesting because you rarely meet people who are both intuitively based and not just cognitively based, but they focus on they're more qualitative rather than quantitative, but you have a mix of both using the cognitive and the spirit. And many people don't understand this, but how would you explain that to people who are either too far on either side of the spectrum? What would you say to them to be able to advance their skills in technology and in their work for someone who's either too cognitive based and too logical mind, or someone who's just way too much far on the spiritual end, which I don't think there is such a thing, but how would you give advice to someone like that to bridge both of the worlds so that they could better use their work? Because there are a lot of people like in Western medicine, as we know, that are very stubborn and don't understand energy. And when you explain it to them, they think it's woo-woo because that's all they ever know how. How do you explain it to those people?
They were actually conditioned to think like that.
Yeah.
And that's why there's such a resistance there. Anytime you have like such a visceral response where people are like attacking you, you're like, where did that come from?
Yes.
And like people, they usually have never researched before. Like when you think about it, because I actually look at the data, I'm like, I know you haven't read it, because if you actually look at the data, there's a lot of research on energy and on praying for people and loving people, and how people's brainwaves will change in real time.
Yes.
So the woo-woo and the snake oil, that's given that name to basically to degrade it so that it's not shown to be as powerful as it truly is. Because if we all knew our potential, then we would truly live within ourselves and know that everything we need is inside of us. But instead we think, oh, we need that purse or that this or that, you know, to idolize something outside of us. And
That's true.
And like, you don't even realize it's happening. And I'm like, oh, look at them conditioning us again. So, and you know, the corporation uses phones, they use everything, they use algorithms to manipulate you,
Yes.
to addict you, and they play to people's emotions.
Yes.
And so I basically bring the science and I bring the communication. So I ask questions to people and I help them understand their own logic, because I know what I read and I know that
you research. You actually do
I
the
look at
research.
the
That's what's
actual data.
amazing, is that you do the research. You don't just go based on intuition. You have the research to back it up.
The thing is, though, even that, people don't even know what research is. So there's a hierarchy of evidence. Like, I do treatments for people, and if I want, say something happened and I'm in court and I need to prove why I did what I did, I have to be able to look at the evidence and say, this is a credible source.
Yes.
So there's a hierarchy of evidence. So like Men's Fitness and all those opinionated type things, that's not evidence. Evidence is the scientific method. It can be reproduced. It was tested this many times over this many years, and it has this many, study applicants. And, some people test 10 people or they test 300,000.
That's true.
So I look at those things and I look at those numbers and I look at what the research is looking at and just understanding what we know as human beings.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and I know what level of evidence I got the information from, so that's how I can decipher what's what. And when it's the truth, it'll be reproducible and you'll see it again and again and again.
Yes, well, you've been practicing for over 20 years and you have a lot of expertise in different parts of the body, because you don't just look at it as individual fields, you look at everything holistically, correct? So was that experience that you had when you were in massage school your first awareness of your intuitive gifts coming online?
I don't think so, because before that, I was always curious about the human body.
Yeah.
And I would volunteer for all these things. I did so much related to the human body, like before that.
Okay.
And I was a tech. I used to follow the therapist. I used to volunteer to go watch surgeries and things.
Yeah.
Like, I've done a lot of weird things because I was always interested in the human body. And people would always come to me as a kid and ask for advice and like weird things, like signs again and again. Adults are asking me for advice. I'm 11. The lady's like telling me all her problems.
So it's like little signs here and there that just keep coming,
yes.
common communications.
Yes, where I'm like,
nudge you.
Yes, you can see where like, if someone's not healed, you bother them for no reason. Or if they are, like, or people tell you their problems, they want answers from you.
Yes.
I saw that from young.
Yes.
And then I realized my discernment from young. Even in class, we were in nutrition school, we would talk about the FDA and how the FDA makes regulations based on profits. So I raised my hand in the middle of a huge lecture and I'm like,
wow.
So this isn't, like, the regulations aren't based on like safety. It's based on, we can sacrifice this many, this many bodies as long as we're making this much money. And the teacher was like, yeah.
And that was the driving force that within you, that was like, I want to be the change too.
Well, the thing is, I was just recognizing it for what it was. And I was looking around, no one else cared. Like, when we took an oath in the medical field, it's do no harm. So people are supposed to be at the utmost center of what we're doing, not profits.
Did that bring a certain sadness to you, or was it more of a driving force?
It was more of a driving force because I would see how what I said would impact people. And so I'm like, wow, if I can learn this information, and if this information is what we live by as humans, and I can decipher this and then show people what the truth is, then I can help people. And so I just, instead of, being upset, I just basically learned to figure out where to go and what to do. And then it led me to learn how to help injuries more and more. And now I'm known all over the world to help people in the most extreme injuries that no one else can help.
Dr. Jena, one of the reasons I also wanted you on here is because something special about you is that you are the person that people come to when they're in their last ditch effort, basically on the threshold of death, mentally, psychologically, physically. How do you incorporate when you speak to your clients and you do change their lives and whatever they're dealing with, how does their perspective of their own spirituality change once you come into their lives?
I communicate on their level. So I don't expect them to know what I know. I break it down. So I've mastered it.
Yeah.
Because if you can't explain something
Yeah.
to someone like a 2-year-old, then you don't understand it yourself. So I break it down to make them understand, and then to link it into their everyday life and into their independence, so that they eventually don't need me, because I don't want you to keep coming
So they
back.
can step into their own divinity and
Their own power. But then it gets to the point where I don't answer their messages, and I make them accountable for their own health.
Yes.
Because otherwise, if I just keep them in the coddle stage, their brain doesn't realize their power. And if I go out of town, they're like, what am I going to do without you? I'm like, it's not me.
Yes.
It's you. So
Yes.
I just help people understand their own power and their own energy, so they can become independent.
Most people don't even know that a lot of their ailments, physical ailments too, are manifestations of what's going on in their personal lives. Mentally, you know, it all stems, we can go based on the chakra system, we can go based on the limbic system, we can go based on whatever, but it's all tied mostly, not all the time, but most of the time. Would you say it is tied to mostly an emotional catalyst, a lot of these physical ailments?
Well, it just depends. And instead of trying to solve and figure out everyone's like root cause initially, I basically take the people where they are and I teach them how to breathe. So in order to get rid of any energy that they are holding on, because I'll release stuff in people, and they'll start crying.
Yeah.
Like grown men are
The
like, what are you,
psychosomatic kind of work?
they're like, what are you doing? So whatever energy and tension you're holding in your body will release. So if you stored emotional tension and you didn't release it at that time, it will come out in the session, and it's pretty crazy to watch. And people are like, what are you doing to me? Or they'll fall asleep. So people are so exhausted because their body's releasing something they haven't released in a while that they'll actually fall asleep.
Well, in order for the spirit to actually thrive in the body, we need to have a good baseline for the nervous system. And a lot of people don't know that mind, body, and spirit are all connected. What you put in your body, what you're doing on a daily basis, what you're consuming. It's not just about food. It's about the vibration of the music that you're listening to. It's about the people that you're hanging around with. And it's so funny that you bring this up, because a few years ago, actually throughout these past few years, I've had so much physical pain in my body, and I thought there was something wrong. I couldn't even get up out of my seat, and my whole fascia was just immobile. And I realized when I started doing a lot of sound exercises, a lot of yelling, a lot of screaming, and released a lot of anger, a lot of that released. Why? What do you think the block is for people to recognize that a lot of this is psycho-spiritual?
We should stay in parasympathetic, go up into fight or flight here and there as the threats are there.
Which is such a,
we stay in fight or flight
we stay
in our world.
And unknowingly too,
Yes.
most people don't even realize it, which is such a blessing and a curse, because at the same time, the body, whenever it is in that fight or flight, it's actually just trying to protect itself.
It is.
Whether even developing scar tissue, anything, you know, you're just trying to protect itself. But when it starts attacking itself, that's when we have to understand that to go back into homeostasis, like you said.
And that's breath work. That's why the yelling, like, it helps you.
Yeah.
Because we inhale and we hyperventilate. We breathe in and we don't exhale. So your exhale should go to your pelvic floor, your forced exhale. But we inhale and inhale, then we're drinking coffee, more inhale. And everyone with breath work, they don't focus on the exhale. So if you can't exhale more than 25 seconds, you're stuck in fight or flight.
Really?
So I'll change my HRV in real time with my, basically how recovered you are and your respiratory rate. So you can see how many times you breathe in a minute, and that's your respiratory rate. And so you can change that. The more or the less you breathe, the lower your heart rate is, the more you're circulating properly and you're not panicking.
I didn't know 25 seconds was the number though.
Yeah, so it's one of the numbers. I mean, everyone's different, but it's a good number to shoot for. That's what I do with a lot of my patients.
Wow.
But then I've gotten up, me and my one patient compete, the mountain bike guy, and we got up to a minute 20 of us exhaling, and we'll do it with sound. So it's so funny because we're like outside his house, like, and like, I'm like, I wonder what your neighbors think we're doing. He's like, I don't care. Like, neither do I.
Breath is the spirit.
It is. You know? Well, it's you connecting back to your light, back to your electricity.
It's the original.
Yes. And so, like, things externally can manipulate that, like sound. You know, they used to hit energy bells or church bells.
Yeah.
And people would go in there and heal.
Tibetan bells too, right?
And heal under the bell because it's a certain vibration.
Yes,
ma'am. So sound bath, same thing. I brought my brother for his first sound bath, and we were like driving in traffic, swerving, just being crazy, road raging on the way there. And then on the way home, he's like, wow. He's like, everyone should do this.
Wow.
And so he's like, I can't believe how good I feel. Like,
Wow.
and he's a skeptic. Like, he's like, this stupid crap. Like, he didn't want to go. And afterwards, he's like, I can't. He's like, we should tell everybody about this.
Yes.
And so there's something about vibration and the sound, and it's all intention. When there's love behind it,
It's all love.
Yeah. And so it's
especially when you're even eating, I always pray like all the time over your food, because you also don't know, since everything is energy, you don't know the person behind it who cooked your food, what kind of energy they were giving into that. Something I want to talk to you about is parasites. There's energetic and physical. Are they basically the same thing, tied to the same thing, or do they manifest? Are they different?
I look at everything as a spectrum of, it's like malignant narcissism and love and pure intention, and then also acidic and basic as far as pH, and then just like the spectrum of vibration, where the higher you vibrate, the more love you are, the more basic versus acidic, because in a low vibration, it's fear, it's shame, and it's acidic. So it's not just the parasites, it's heavy metals making you an antenna to vibrations that are negative ones. So if that's a breeding ground for things to grow within you. And it's not just the parasites, it's the fungus, it's bacteria, it's viruses. Like, you become this breeding ground and a host, basically. So when you think about parasites, think about hosts. But then there's different frequencies that also impact parasites, like internal parasites. So it's all like, are your organ systems clean? I have a gene mutation that prevents my detox pathways from being efficient. So basically, I need to take an external enzyme in order to break down homocysteine into glutathione. So imagine I was just accumulating homocysteine, thinking I'm doing everything correctly, and my genetic guy was like, you could have a stroke at any minute.
Really?
He's like, I've never seen someone with such a high homocysteine. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, so I'm doing hyperbaric chamber, I'm over here doing red light sauna and all this stuff, and I'm like, wow. So knowing your genetics, understanding your body on like a level that's not just one avenue of health is so important.
Remind me to get a blood plan with you later.
I got the best guys in the world. They care about people. So that's where I find my people.
How much do you believe that the blood tells about what's going on in the body?
So I never believe just one thing definitively, and I never take something as an absolute. You just take it as information. So, I'm going to supplement with this enzyme, but I'm also going to retest and see maybe the genetic mutation can change if my system's in a better environment. Because I was in black mold for a long time.
Really?
So very bad black mold. And like to the point where the inspector, I lost all my hair. I used to have long hair.
I've never even heard of black mold before.
Really? It was
never.
It was on forensic files for killing people.
Wow.
Like black mold, you've never heard? It causes cancer, Alzheimer's disease. Like I started forgetting things.
Oh, brain fog.
Everything, but specific cancers. And so it also causes cysts. So it was in the
Jeez.
It was in the HVAC. So it was in the air conditioning unit.
Oh my goodness.
Basically, I researched the mold. It's a curse and a great thing at the same time. But it says you get cysts in your sinuses, your lungs, and then your brain eventually. And so I went and got scanned because it was like the highest level they had ever seen, because there were 2 Wi-Fi towers on the top of the building. So it was growing. That grows mold. Because that frequency thrives
on a lower
the
vibration
environment of mold. So I had a 16 millimeter cyst in my brain, and I had 2 centimeter cysts in both of my sinuses here, 12 cysts, all like little ones, all in my lungs. And so I'm like, damn.
How did you clear those?
So basically I started looking into fasting, and just, I don't take care of myself. Like, people that take care of people are not always the greatest at taking care of themselves. Yeah. But
that's honest.
Right. And I know myself very well, and I know my weaknesses, but I was working, that really hit me hard to start taking care of myself and give myself the love I was given to everybody else. So I started doing fasting and just taking time to, go outside and be healthy like I want to be, instead of just, fixing everyone's injuries all the time. Because it's nonstop, all day, every day. People from high school, like it's a lot. And I try to teach other people to help people too, so it's not just me, and we can impact more. But you know what is a big thing that I want to make sure we touch on?
Tell me.
One of the biggest things that holds my patients back is them believing they can't get better.
that right there, people not believing is a block in itself, which creates more fear, which attracts more lower vibrational entities and things to come in and stifles the nervous system even deeper.
100%. It's fear.
It's fear-based.
More threats. Everything's a threat. So then you can't think clearly when you're in fight or flight. You can't recall memories because you're ready for a lion attack. So that's where it's not just, it's the nervous system, but then look at it, bringing it back big picture is like more things are threatening in your life, and then you become more fearful, more shameful. You never truly let go. You never breathe deep. It's all the same thing.
It's all tied together.
Yeah. So I give people that baseline with their injury, but then, like I told you, when I give them independence, I tell them, you'd be further, but you're blocking it. And I tell them that. I'm like, you don't believe me? And like, because they'll be like, this is expensive, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, you're the one holding yourself back. So you would have already been there if you believe me.
How much of that do you teach, like words and speaking? Because I know you teach everything holistically. How much is language a big barrier in the work that you do?
So in the beginning, these people have suffered for so long that that's all they know. And that's a big part of getting to the next level with me is they sit there and I'll be like, no, stop being mean. Because they shame themselves and they don't realize it. They're so used to not being able to go for a walk. And then I'm like, I start bringing into play the good things that happened. And I'm like, yeah, but you haven't complained about that. They don't remember when they were in pain versus not in pain. They just keep going, and then there's some other issue that they don't like. So I remind them where they came from. So I show them videos. I show them pictures. And I'm like, look. I'm like, so stop being so hard on yourself, or stop shaming yourself, because you're like, you need to recognize the good, because then it'll motivate you to keep going.
Why does the ego love negative comfortability?
Because the body's just trying to stay safe, and your body that's all it knows in that moment, and it just wants to stay where it's comfortable.
Have there been so many clients and people that you have worked with, and obviously you can help them, but the goal is for them to change their own habits so they can be in the highest optimization for their health? Have there been people that you had to actually let go of and not speak to anymore because they weren't making the effort to take that accountability?
Actually, yes. It was more for love for myself.
Okay.
Because I can give you the tools to get past your own blocks, but if you don't want to get better, then you're not going to get better.
How important is self-love for the healing journey?
Self-love is everything, because people that aren't healed will test you, and you have to be grounded in yourself and your boundaries and what you need to survive in order to help them. So if you're sabotaging yourself, you're not going to help anyone. So, you asked me, do I get rid of people or have I fired people? I give people the tools they need to better themselves. And sometimes people manipulate those tools, or I think they're using them and they're using them to manipulate me. And so I'm like, okay, so this person doesn't really want to get better, and I'll call them out on it. And I'll be like, hey, because it's human nature. They're just trying to do what they know. And so I'll be like, hey, you're manipulating in this situation, even if they don't know, because some people don't know. But then I watch, and if they still manipulate, then I'm like, okay, they basically want attention and they don't want to get better. Yeah. So that's their own journey. I'm not here to sit here and beg you to get better and get better and get better. It's not on me. You should want to get better, and I'm a blessing to have in your life. And if you're not willing to do that, then it's not worth it, and you don't deserve having my energy in your life, because I'm here to move you forward.
Is there this unconscious belief in many humans, the reason why they don't heal is because they have this unconscious belief that they don't deserve to be healed?
It's very unconscious. It's
deep.
And I don't even think they know what it is, but it's all they've known. I have people that their whole life they did a certain thing, or they walk like their mom. They're like, oh, I always did that since young. Or they hear from the doctor, oh, it's hereditary. No, because then that, again, is a crutch. And it's just something our society does, Instead of just, again, taking accountability or finding the root cause, we just kind of blanket term things and move on, Because in our medical world, we're very busy, and the corporation is like plug and chug, more people. And what I do is very intimate. It's very one-on-one, and it's very learning someone on a deep level so that I can see what you need to move forward. And so, yes, it is an injury in the beginning, but then it gets to a point where it's your mental blocks. And then you get strong enough physically that I can talk to you like, hey, this is what you're doing. Yeah. And I'll call you out. And people get to the point where first they don't trust me at all. Then they think I'm lying to them. Then I have to show them and prove in videos. then like one of my celebrities the other day was like, someone came up to me and said, you look so tall. And they were like, do you work for Dr. Jena? And I was like,
wow.
so, and it was like a podcast. They were doing a podcast in another state. I think it was in New York. And I was like, you thought I paid the person to come tell you?
Wow.
Because I was like, you're so tall. I said, but you won't believe me. And I don't want you to hear it from me because it's biased. Yeah. Because they're like, oh yeah, job security. And I'm like, no, it's not. But eventually they hear things and it's reconfirmed again and again and again that by the end of working with someone, I don't know why people all say this, but they're like, anything you say, I will just do it because everything you say comes true. They're like, I'll let you just punch me in the face if you say it's going to help me. And I'm like, why does everyone say that?
Yeah.
So it goes I just really have to build trust with people. And then, you give them those tools and show them the results. They speak for themselves and then they learn to trust me and they keep breaking down barriers and sky's the limit.
That's amazing. And, it's so funny because when people like you obviously have this deep knacking for knowing who the hell you are. And some people, whether they want to call it cocky, egotistical, it's not. It's recognizing your own power. And that's a threat when we recognize our own power too. That tests other people to look within themselves to see what part of themselves are they judging when they call this person egotistical, when they call this person selfish, when they call this person. No, what if this person is reflecting to you a part of yourself that you have not yet seen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's why, you're just one person, but whenever I'm off of my shit, you call me out.
Always.
And I take that, but the old ego would have been like, oh, like taking it something within me or saying, no, I don't need to do this, but I'm blocking my own blessing because if there's multiple people saying this, right, then it's coming from a place obviously of love. The ego doesn't want to interpret it as love. The ego wants to interpret it as there's always something wrong with me, which is a nervous system protection. That's why I ask you how important is self-love, because I feel that the basic, most fundamental wound of anything is that we are not worthy enough. Mm-hmm. That I believe is the core root of the whole nervous system, the whole root.
I just feel we're all electrical beings, and if your system is it's an energy field, and if your fascia is not communicating, you're electrical.
Everything gets a lot.
Yeah, it's basically, I tell everyone, even with numbness and their people's fingers, I'm like, your muscles are pinching down on the telephone wire, so it's like, how is the signal supposed to get through when there's no circulation? Everything's based on lubrication and gliding, so how are you going to feel and see when you're not breathing?
True.
And breath is the biggest connection to the lymphatic system and to the fascia. So if you don't breathe, your immune system is garbage. Like, I never get sick. I mean, knock on wood, and I'm not cocky, but also people that are givers, I've always learned to, especially I'm 100% Greek, and I've learned as a woman, like, don't be cocky, don't do this, and it's kept me from recognizing my power because I don't want to be overconfident. But my confidence comes from a deep place. I've gone through a lot, and nothing has been easy in any way, and I've earned it, So, and now I do it as a way of self-love. I have standards in my life, and I've seen things happen, lessons happen again and again and again. And I'm like, I'm not doing that anymore out of respect for myself. And so, like you said, it's subconscious. People don't know what they're doing, but I don't have to sit there and let that energy in my life anymore. And I don't tolerate things because I gave myself for so long that finally I was like, I'm not doing it. I clicked and I went into like freeze fawn mode. Where I was doing so much always. I was always the person that did so much. Give, and like, I'm doing this school, that school, this certification. I was the only one in grad school that had a job on the side. Like, it was, I have always gone and gone and gone. So now it's like, finally, I'm going to step back and I'm just going to be myself and just be. And so that's been
which people
huge.
Don't understand. Well, congratulations. And people don't understand that that's most of the time, just such a generational trauma that people carry in their DNA, whether you want to call it from past lives, whatever, or it's just generational. It carries in your DNA. Mm-hmm. These traits carried in your DNA, but people don't realize you can heal your DNA. You can change your DNA.
You can, but you have to look at it.
And the awareness is 50% of the battle.
It's everything. But if you're not aware in basic things, you're never going to be aware in deep things.
Yeah.
And so
Exactly.
it's so important to, if you feel like you're reacting emotionally anytime, and that's when I was young too, my discernment, I'd be like, where is this coming from? Like I remember being really young and I'd be like, why did I just say something negative about that girl?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, it's because I was threatened by that in my life.
In your life.
And so I'm like, I don't like that. So I'm not going to do that anymore. If I see something is making me react, I'm going to figure out why and then overcome that, and that's with anything in my life. And so even I didn't know how to build things. And when I was in NASCAR in North Carolina, DeWalt was one of our sponsors. And I just bought all these tools and I started building all this stuff. I started doing backsplash in my house. I built a whole gym and like a pegboard just because I couldn't do the pegboard. So I built one and it went like up and around my whole wall. And I used to have a lot of the NASCAR drivers. I do treatments in my studio out there. But it's like you can overcome anything. You don't let things overcome you. You just reverse engineer it, figure out how to do it step by step.
It all comes to accountability and awareness and consciousness, which is what the foundation is the awareness that most people don't have. And people can just be the catalyst. We can all have catalysts and people come and show us, we have signs, we have blessings of people come into our lives every day. But I believe that this comes to the conversation of, is there free will or is there not free will? What is the soul contract? What is the reason why somebody doesn't change? That all doesn't matter. The point is that people are conscious beings and we have the consciousness and awareness to know that we can change, and that awareness shines light on those shadows. But most people don't want to step into that shadows because they know that once they look into that shadow, everything that they ever known will die.
Well, I think most people don't even know there's a shadow. I feel like people are stuck in repetition and they are just stuck in this loop and they don't even know. Because look at, like, when people get mad at you, they don't know they're getting mad. It's not a personal thing.
Yeah.
They don't like it within themselves, but they don't even realize enough to address it. So you have awareness, so you can correlate those two things. Most people don't have that skill. And so they just will go in the same loop and have the same arguments. I would have an argument and I'd be like, oh, I saw that before. What am I doing where I can be better? So it's not...
You were ready to see it.
Right. But it's not having all the answers. It's just being open.
Aware. Yes, exactly.
And like just doing the best you can with what you have right now.
Exactly.
Because no one's perfect.
I used to think it is dangerous when a person is not aware, but worry about the person that is aware but chooses to avoid it. Because if they have the awareness but don't choose to change, then they're actually making a conscious decision.
Exactly.
So for the people who aren't aware, I think part of this is letting go, not giving so much of your power having to change people. One of the last things I want to talk about is, when did you realize that being selfish was actually something that was required to be able to help others?
So
if that makes sense.
No, 100%. And I obviously had like a people-pleasing type of situation where that's where I found myself, and I kept repeating the same thing, and I would notice that it was like an abandonment thing. And every time I tried to keep people, eventually they took what I do for granted. They acted like I never helped them. So I've had people pay millions to different hospitals. They've had surgeries and they couldn't fix their issue. The one guy couldn't get off the ground. He couldn't play with his kid because he had so much pain. Doesn't have pain anymore, is now a year and a half later like a professional athlete, doesn't need me anymore, transition him away to do different things, basically becomes independent. Starts introducing me as his trainer, starts degrading me, talking down to me.
What?
Like, to the point where, and it's happened many times. Or just like, I sometimes make it so easy for people that they think that it's so easy for me. It's because I spent my life studying things that most people won't study. I spent my life fighting my character to keep my character in a society that wants to degrade everything you do and say, and everything about the traditional family. And so it's been nonstop hard, and people think they know you and they think they have you all figured out. And it's like, I realized I was trying to keep people, and these people would leave in 2 seconds and forget that I ever existed. And so it just kept happening where I would give so much that people are like, oh, you're such a a loser basically, because why else would you be giving so much?
Yes.
And then they treated me as such. And so I'm like, okay, wow. Like I thought you were family, and it just kept happening again and again. And I'm like, look at me, I abandoned my own self.
You abandon yourself
So
too.
why would I expect them to have respect for me when I don't respect my own time?
Which is probably the lesson that you were attracting those people because of the part of a vibration that you were sitting in.
And I needed to come into my power. I have people that message me. I have hundreds of messages daily where I get so overwhelmed, and then I'll try. And every day when my brother was out here, he's like, I'll just sit there and I'll be like, oh shit. And he's like, you just randomly swear out of nowhere. I'm like, cause it's something I forgot to do, or someone I forgot to get back to, or, 3 people wrote me on text, 3 emails, and people are like, who do you think you are? You don't write me back. You're the 17th person today that I had, and I'm calling people's doctors and, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm running myself into the ground. These people don't even say hi.
Yeah.
Like, how's your day? Nothing. People could care less about my existence.
Yeah.
It's basically about what I could do for them.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I'm like,
but it also takes
I'm
a
done.
while for people to also have that consciousness, that conscious understanding that it's not personal. Today.
Well, it took, for me, I read a bunch of different things on psychology, and I realized I was taking everything personally. And even now, it's hard not to take things personally when someone's treating you a certain way. But I start to look at people that are on a journey where they don't want to see. I look at them like children.
No, but even people, like when you don't respond to their texts, right? But they see you doing other things, it takes a lot of conscious. For me, when somebody doesn't answer my text but I see them doing other stuff, I've done a lot of work on myself. So I don't take things as personally as I used to. But it took years to get there, because it takes a long time for people to say, maybe she's busy, maybe she's going through that thing. Maybe
the thing is, you never know what someone's going through, because I have a social media girl. People, like, I remember one time my brother said something to me where he's like, I can't believe you posted that. And I was like, I don't even know what I posted. He's like, you did that right after I talked to you on the phone. I was like, I don't even know what I posted. And I had to go look. And I'm like, I didn't even post that. Like, my media girl found the video in my stuff, and that's what she posted for today. I didn't consciously make a decision to try and like hurt you. So that's where, not everything's as it seems. And, even when I was going through the mold and I couldn't remember things, and like, you never know what people are going through,
Never.
And so I give people, I just try to give people grace and things, and I try to give myself grace.
Is she good?
No one's perfect. This is how she sleeps. When they're on their back, they trust
She looks
you.
like she's like knocked out.
She had a long day.
Well, I guess the foundation of this whole thing is also just coming back to baseline, coming back to self, and coming back to homeostasis. And I want to just say thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. I know there's so much we could talk about, because it is really rare for people to bridge the gap between the spiritual and the physical, not realizing that they are one and the same. And I know we're headed to that direction. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This has been another episode of Wide Eyed with Sai. If you want to contact Dr. Jena Gatses, I will be posting her social media. But anything other than that, you may reach me at Simon Perrott, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you so much.